Hello, and welcome to Two Pews in a Pod. Join us as we explore faith in a modern world at Evangelical Lutheran Church in Frederick, Maryland. Now, here is your host, Pastor Paul Baglios.
I'm Paul Baglios, and I'm pleased to welcome all of you who may be listening or watching to this episode of our ELC podcast. This is the third of what we think will be 4 episodes in a series on the joy of community in service. And today I am joined by 2 of the members of our quilting ministry. Their formal name, I was instructed to say, is Twin Spires Quilters. To my right is Karen Smith, and to her right is Nancy Luce. Thank you both for taking the time to record this conversation for a podcast episode. We're going to start, as we begun the other episodes in this series. Tell us about the work. What is the work that the quilters do? Recently, many of you may have been in worship here at ELC when we dedicated 103 quilts, and those had adorned our sanctuary for the entire weekend. But most of the work that the quilters do is behind the scenes work. The larger congregation, unless they participate, seldom gets to see it. It happens in the basement of the Hahn building, where we are sitting right now, in the deepest recesses of the bowels of the building, as we might say. Few have ever ventured down there into those spaces, but that is where our quilters do their work. Tell us what that work is.
Well, you may notice that Karen and I look a little dragged out at the moment because this happens to be the day we had our annual quilting bee. And we did that in Trunk Hall, so we were a little more visible than in the bowels of the building. But we did all the things that we do down there in Trunk Hall, so you could see the different stations. You start out like designing the quilts, and then you
cut the quilts, you design them, then you sew them together in the rows, and then we sew the tops to the backs, then we bat it, and then we knot it, and it's quite a process to do a quilt. It takes several days to do a quilt, and we do them in stages because not everybody. I don't design. I am terrible at designing. Nancy does beautiful quilt tops. I'll do anything else except for that. So then we have people who they knot the quilts, which
from
is
home. They'll take them home and do that.
And that's the final stage of the quilt. Once they're knotted, then they're completed, and then.
And we also have people who contribute fabric. A lot of times, if you're downsizing your house and you've been a crafter, and so you have like tons of fabric that you want to get rid of, and that shows up sometimes. Karen will find a little package on the doorstep of fabric, and we always appreciate that. And we also have people give donations of money, which we use to buy our batting, which is not all that cheap.
No. And with Joanne going out of business, we went out and
That's Joanne Fabric.
Joanne Fabrics.
My wife was lamenting that news last night.
Yeah, we went out a couple weeks ago and we got a lot of backs. So we're good on backs right now. It's just making the tops and finishing the quilts. So.
And I have seen downstairs the shelving and the cabinetry where all of this different kind of material is stored. It's quite a supply. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I heard you say that the group today finished 7?
Yes,
7 quilts.
But started on, so they're in various stages. Right. So that really gave us a running leap to get more done.
Right, and then some of the other quilts we've got finished in different stages of the quilt. So, yeah.
And what happens with the quilts?
They get counted out into big garbage bags. We have
six in a bag.
6 in a bag, and they just keep piling up. And then we take them to New Windsor
after they've been blessed. So
yes.
We have planned to go on St. Patrick's Day to New Windsor to take them over there, and then
it goes to Lutheran World Relief.
World Relief, And then some of the other ones that we separate, we try to make it like a child's theme quilt because we also donate to Sleep in Heavenly Peace.
Correct.
And in fact, I just gave 6 quilts last Saturday to them, and they were very appreciative of that.
So the quilting ministry is an example of a word that I like. It's a made-up word. It's the word glocal, referring to what is both global and local in scope. Through Lutheran World Relief, the quilts that are made here at Evangelical Lutheran Church could be on the far opposite side of our planet. They may not all travel that far, but the quilts that go to Sleep in Heavenly Peace will be used more locally in our county.
Yeah. The last time we sent out quilts, we put a tracker in there, and we found out that they ended up in Lebanon.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, in Lebanon. In fact, it was during that explosion that happened in the harbor that we thought the whole shipping container was destroyed, but it wasn't. It wasn't. It was, yeah.
When you mentioned New Windsor, so in New Windsor, there is a storage facility, and I think it is owned and operated by the Brethren, but
Yes.
they work ecumenically. The Evangelical Lutheran Church in America and Lutheran World Relief are partners with the Brethren. Quilts made by Lutheran congregations anywhere, especially in this whole half of the country.
All the United States. There's 2 warehouses. One in Minnesota.
One in Minnesota and the other here in Maryland.
Yeah. Those are the only 2.
This was something that I only learned recently. I think I mentioned in a sermon some months ago. My mother-in-law, who died quite a while ago, but she had been very active in the quilting ministry of her Lutheran congregation in Nebraska, and had often said to my wife, her daughter, that someday she would hope to see the place in New Windsor, Maryland, where the quilts go. They are kept there. They are stored very temporarily to be loaded into sea containers to go anywhere else in the world.
Yeah. They press about 25 to 30 quilts down and wrap it in plastic. Somebody put on Facebook a picture of the warehouse with all the quilts ready to go. Yeah.
Who else of the congregation or friends of this congregation participates in this quilting ministry?
Well, we have Nancy Salzman. She takes quilts home and works on those. We have Nancy Van Fossen.
Is it like a whole Nancy thing?
It is.
Yeah. We used to have four Nancys in our group.
And we have Joanne Dietz, who is, she's a whiz on the cutter thing, so she cuts all our fabric. Cindy Dietz, who shows up for the quilting bee, but we changed our hours and she has to work, so
Yeah.
she can't take off to come.
She's still one of us.
And we also have Julie
Lagarde.
and we have Sally
Sharon.
and
now recently...
and Missy.
Yeah.
Missy. Yes, we can't
What's
forget
her
Missy.
last name?
Missy Staley they're
Yeah.
talking about. She is a newer member of this congregation and probably younger
She
than
really
the other.
she's-
She
yeah, she
skews
skews
your
the whole-
age
yeah, she
curve
does.
quite a lot.
Yeah. And we have Sydney Thompson, who just got finished college at Penn State. So she's been helping us out this year, and she's going to go somewhere to law school. She hasn't figured that out yet. But
Which school?
who else?
Well, Sherry Matsko.
Sherry Matsko, Judy Verch helps out.
Right.
This is quite a number.
Mary, or Anne Marie Crosby.
She helped with the quilting bee. Right. I'm going around. I'm trying to think who's at the tables at the sewing machines. That's it, isn't it?
Leslie Hobbs was there today.
Leslie was here today, yeah, but she's not quilter, but she was there to help, yeah.
And
That's it, isn't it? Yeah.
Joanne.
Joanne Baum?
Yeah.
She was there, but she's not a quilter per se, but yeah.
So what I'm hearing, and I know from what I've observed, that there are some of you who are part of this ministry every week.
Yes.
And others who may help out more occasionally.
Right.
And it takes all of that effort. Talk about, if you will, because it's the point of this particular series. I understand that you do this because you love the work, but I also know you do this because you love those with whom you do it. And on that note, talk about what is satisfying and happy-making for you to gather and do this side by side with the others who help.
Well, I know for myself, I hated to sew when I was young, and my mother could sew anything. And it was when I moved into the Rupp house, and I heard some noise downstairs in the kitchen, and I thought, what is going on down there? And I walked down there, and here were the ladies. This was about 1994, and the ladies were down there quilting. I went, well, that will give me something to do. But my thing is just the fellowship that I have with such good friends, you know. And I did, it was, we used to call it a temple talk. And I talked about the quilts, how they're not just like we would think on somebody's bed, because a lot of people who get these quilts don't have a bed. And we have to use cotton because not everybody has a washing machine to wash them. They'll wash them in a stream or something to that nature, and they have to be able to dry quickly. And they also carry their belongings in them. It covers them from the sun and different things like that. And just to know that we're helping somebody like that, that's very satisfying. But the biggest thing is the fellowship I have with these fantastic ladies.
Yeah, there's a lot of laughter that goes on in those rooms.
Can you tell a story about laughter?
The one that comes to my mind is some
It can be at my expense.
No. Is some of the ladies are very particular as to how the corners connect. And if it's off just a little bit, then all you hear is whining about how it's not set up. And I used to say, ladies, it's okay. It'll keep them warm. And that's our motto. Doesn't matter what it looks like. It will keep them warm. So,
but of course, they are beautiful.
they are beautiful. Yeah.
What I've seen is that the work that's done here does not produce crap.
No.
Yeah.
It-
No,
it-
I would
it's-
would dare say our quilts are the nicest ones in New Windsor.
Yeah.
Nancy, for you, what do you enjoy about doing this with the others who participate?
I think it's, just seeing the creativity, some of the things that we come up with, and it's, and everyone is very complimentary of one another. It's not
Except on the corners,
on
apparently.
the corners. But it's just a really good camaraderie, because we're all kind of working together on it, and and we, catch up on what's going on around town, and just, is there a new restaurant that opened? Maybe we should all go there. So we do like to have meals together occasionally too. So because we're Lutherans, but it's just, a nice little diversion from your week.
Yeah.
So Karen just said she's been involved about 30 years and started because she stumbled upon it. How long have you done this, Nancy, and how did you get involved?
Probably 20-some years. And my grandmother, I remember her, she lived in central Pennsylvania and went to a Lutheran church there, and she and her women cohorts would do quilting, and she would just, she had a quilting loom set up in like a frame, so they actually did quilting, and they did some knotting, but she was always and forever making a quilt, so she kind of influenced me, I would have to say.
So here's a question that may be of some interest to people who are listening to or watching this episode. What exactly makes a quilt a quilt? How is a quilt different than a blanket?
It's the pieces together. Like my grandfather used to tease my grandmother and say, you take a perfectly good piece of fabric and you cut it all up into pieces and then you stitch it back together again. It's like, what's the point of that?
Well, what is the point of that?
I think the other thing with the quilts is it's like the way we make them, it's 3 sections to it, 3 layers.
Yeah.
Whereas the blanket is just
Yeah.
a blanket. Yeah. And a lot of times people would use, years ago, during Depression and things like that, they would use pieces of material. And they could make a quilt out of it versus a blanket.
Well, and I'm surmising this out of a depth of ignorance here, but I'm thinking that a quilt is not only more beautiful, but it's also warmer and more durable.
Yeah, they're pretty warm. Yeah.
I remember one time I went camping with a friend of mine in dead of winter, and she brought these heavy, heavy quilts along with her, right? They kept you so warm because they were just so heavy. But our quilts aren't heavy, but it still keeps them warm. Yeah.
Suppose somebody wants to inquire further about this or get involved. Who do they talk to?
Well, either one of us. Either
Okay.
one of us. But mostly people contact me.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm on Facebook. I'm on emails in the church directory. So. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you mentioned sometimes receiving some monetary donations that help you to maintain the supply of materials
Well, and plus when we go to ship them, we
Yep.
give them money for shipping.
for the shipping cost.
Yeah.
And I think I'm right that on the website of our congregation, where you have an option to donate online, I think one of the specific tiles you can choose, one of the specific causes that you would support is the quilting ministry.
Yeah, and I've seen several, because I get the report from Sherry, and I've seen that several times, online donations, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
'Cause- yeah. And then we also, we sell some of the quilts, and also with the Christmas market that we've had in the past. I mean, we've raised a lot of money with that, and we have stuff that we made, and we're going to try to sell some things. So, yeah.
Well, thank you both for taking the time to do this. This is interesting to me. I learned some things I did not know listening to you, and I'm hoping that those of you who have listened or watched this episode may have learned some things. Again, if this perhaps pokes, prods, or tickles an interest you have in learning more or maybe getting involved, you can always talk to Karen Smith or Nancy Luce. Of course, you can talk to me. You can talk to Deacon Wyatt. We can help you get connected to others who are involved. And I can't let this go without passing up because it was too clever. We arranged ourselves this way as no hair,
Stop.
new hair, and we'll say nice hair. Thank you again, and thank you to all of you. I'm Paul Baglios.
I'm Karen Smith.
I'm Nancy Luce.
This has been Two Pews in a Pod, a podcast hosted by the pastor of Evangelical Lutheran Church in Frederick, Maryland. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time.